well. Some folks are still the same that didn't do math then either. But look forward to working with you all and appreciate you all being here today. Y'all probably already know Lee. Jacka is our math specialist, and so she and I are both based out of Birmingham. And then Jimmy Bartlett is our ALEKS implementation specialist in somewhere in Georgia.
I live out in northeast of Atlanta, far enough away that I don't have to smell it or hear it, you know.
So Jimmy, this will be Jimmy's trip for the most part with Lee playing Vanna today and doing everything for him. But please, informal. So questions along the way, please ask us, stop us, and let us know what you need. And thanks for partnering with us and for being here today.
Okay. Well, I will tell you that I'm also from Decatur, but I'm from Decatur, Georgia. I grew up in Decatur, Georgia, so very close to home. Riding around looking at all these signs that say Decatur, kind of makes you do some flashbacks. So, well, thank you. There's no real agenda today other than making sure we answer all of your questions and talk about the data that might not be some of your questions, so that we can talk about you maximizing the benefits that ALEKS's sort of support of learning provides you, for you to be able to see and feel and touch students in their workflow, so you know what that is. So I'm going to start with a couple of things that I can just demonstrate and let you guys finish eating, and then we'll get to, if you have a question along the way, please don't hesitate to ask your question at any time. So we're in a class just like one of you would be in. Many of you may not have this instructor drop down because we went to grab something from Valerie's class to just get an example. And if you haven't done this already and somebody didn't show you, or they showed you and you forgot about it, one of the most important things I find with student conversations with instructors about the students is that you knowing what the student experience is like is really important. And so we're just going to walk through it in a real quick way. Class tools from any class, when you click on the class summary for a class, has a student view drop down. And so if you click on this student view right here, how many of you have been in your class in student view? Okay, about half of you. The other half of you can see it, you can recognize it. I find that the conversations I've had with hundreds of instructors who've been using ALEKS for dozens and dozens of years at this point, is that the secret to success is knowing what ALEKS does as a baseline, because it does more than just deliver a simple problem in a homework and give it back to the students in a response. It does a lot more. So understanding what it does, understanding how the course is organized so that you're not surprised by anything that happens while ALEKS is doing its thing with that course, and then really understanding what the student experience is so you can reinforce what is already part of the system, which is get to work, stay to work, and knock it out. Just keep it. The students that actually do honest work in ALEKS show results in the class, as opposed to a lot of other systems where they were doing work that they were practicing their very well-developed skill of pattern matching and not learning math. Students don't get very far with pattern matching in ALEKS. So we go to the student view, and any of you can go into it at any time by clicking on the green button. I will note that there's a reset student view, so if you ever want to go back in and start at the beginning again, and a lot of times can be helpful to start and show the students what the experience is going to be a little bit if you talk about it when you introduce it. Second thing that I find is really, really common among people that are very, very successful with ALEKS is they know how to set the stage for the students around what it is. So let's click on the student view real quickly, and we're going to go into the beginning. So your students coming across from Canvas or coming in directly from ALEKS.com, when they get into the system, this is the first screen they're going to see. It's a screen that helps explain what ALEKS does. Everybody understand this cycle of learning and assessment that's right here in ALEKS? Anybody brand new to ALEKS that doesn't understand it? I can go over it a little bit more, but it's one of the very most important things about ALEKS is it's different in the way that it actually operates underneath the hood. There's an automatic delivery of learning, much like your homework might have been in a homework system, but not anywhere near as less successful in helping students learn and retain the material. So it teaches them to navigate around. If you've never been on these screens, when you go into your student view, you have to click on the little help that it's giving you. And then there's this great big button that says Get Started over here with another arrow pointing at it. And it's going to be a tutorial. Why? Because ALEKS is an open response system. They have to create answers correctly to be able to get the answer to be, accepted. They don't have a skip tutorial button. We do, because we're doing demonstration and we don't need to go through everything. Although we're so proud of our graphing tool that even though we let you skip the tutorial, we make you stop on that page on the way out. So you have to click the skip the tutorial more than once if you want to get out of it along the way. We talk about the calculator being on or off based on the kind of problem it is. ALEKS's calculator is provided to support students doing calculation and problems that aren't about developing calculation skills. We skip it and you get to see the first of many screens that ALEKS does. It's reinforcement for the learning. Congratulations, you got through the first step. Now let's see if you can get through the next step. What is the next step? Well, we tell them it's a knowledge check. We point to it again. We say, click here. Students don't have any problems figuring this out. We start to tell them what to do. Tell them what to expect. We tell them not to get, distracted, not to get help, to use paper and pencil to work out the problem, but don't get help from anything else. That means that Mathway and other websites that answer questions aren't going to help you. It's just going to end up giving you an initial knowledge check result. This is a knowledge check at the beginning of the course that tells you what the student knows and doesn't know in that course already. Does anybody think that's important? What's one of the benefits of that? What's one thing that you get out of that as a student that if I actually do an honest knowledge check, I don't have to work on stuff that I already know how to do, so I don't have to do that homework that might make me overconfident and feel good about myself, but end up being overconfident about how much work it's going to take to be successful in this class. And I'm not starting so far into the course that I can't be with the course unless I'm, repeating a course and remember, and I only get credit for what I can remember and show how to do even in that case. There's a skip knowledge check here that we can use if we want to. If you haven't seen it before, you can see the kind of questions. If you've watched any students work on the system before, you'll be able to see that. Yeah, let's go ahead and say moderate. They don't have this screen. This is, again, just a screen for us for demonstration. They get to this screen right here when they finish answering questions. Knowledge checks are, anybody know how many questions knowledge checks usually are? The beginning one, the initial knowledge check is almost always 30 questions. Who said that? There you go. Right there on it. And 30 questions. So we use those 30 questions to drill in and use relationships that we understand underneath the structure for all content. And then when you make your customized content, that structure relationship is only working with what's left in the course. And that we make some inferences about what they know and don't know based on our ability to infer that they don't need to learn how to do 1 + 1 if they can divide or multiply or other things that are beyond that. And so the questions are usually into it. It gives them a result, and again, this is just an example showing a screen. This is the first place where we talk about the ALEKS Pi sort of full course view of this class with colors filled in for slices of what they already know. Click on the continue button and we'll go to the next page where it starts to show you what ALEKS is looking like. Anytime you want to get back to that Pi view, there's a tab at the top on the right-hand side on the starting page where they can get back to it. They can navigate to the slices and see how many topics are left, but we want them to go to the timeline. Why? Because most students are in classes where there's a time-based component to getting through. What do we want them to do? We want them to finish all the topics before the end of the class. So we start giving them information, due dates. In your classes here, you have objectives built that have content in them that is reflective of what you're expecting them to learn in a time period, and they're constantly being reminded of that. They land on this page every time they start into their course, and they get to this page where they have to start doing something from here, so they have a reminder here. How many topics? They have a reminder Right here behind that, there's a reminder, and eventually they're going to have a reminder up on top. When you click on Start My Path, it'll start to show some more. Anybody seen this screen before? This is the working screen, the learning screen for the students. So this tells you that, you know, you see it, they're in the learning mode when they're in here. Yes? So go to the menu bar at the top left and go to Home. Right there, menu bar at the top left. Hamburger. Oh, yeah. Now go click on Home. It'll take us right back.
You can also show them that they can see when their next knowledge
Yes,
is.
the hovering. It's not showing it right now because we're still in the tutorial. So when you hover over it, it doesn't show it.
But some students like to know when those are coming up.
Right. Well, when we redesigned the student module 2 years ago, was released, and then 2 years before that, there were 3 things that were very, very frustrating to students. 1, I don't know when the knowledge checks are going to happen. 2, how many more times do I have to get this problem right before it gets added to my pie? And 3, can I really delay my knowledge check? And we put all those into the new student module so that we can do that. So again, I'm back on the page where the student would have landed after that tutorial, and the reminder is on the left, the reminder for how much time you've got. This is where in the timeline it shows it. The due date for this down the timeline would show the due date for the actual. So click on Continue My Path. We'll go right into the student real quickly to talk about it. So every time a student lands on a topic for the first time, they get an explain page. We didn't used to do that, and we determined that students benefited greatly by having that explain page first, because one customer thought that was a better way to do it and asked us to support their 2 years worth of research on putting the explain page with half of their students doing it and a half control group didn't, and they saw a difference in performance, and when we redesigned the interface, we put it in there. There's a progress meter section at the top. It's 5 bars that get filled up when the students work on it. There's an explanation. There's icons over here that include the calculator whether it's on or off, and the ebook, and a dictionary, and ability to message your instructor. And on the explain pages, there's ability to print the page. And then there's also a drop down up there that's going to help you see more topics. But the default for ALEKS, I don't always think you make a big deal about students can go up there and move through it, because if you never tell a student anything about that or really reinforce, you can work on other topics out of order. They won't ever run into anything except for something that's available, unlocked, and ready for them to learn. And and in ALEKS's opinion about that student and that particular knowledge state, the thing they're most likely to be successful with. We're feeding them an efficient path to help them learn among the topics that are in that objective that could be learned. So if they go they're choosing their own path that might not be the most efficient one. We won't let them work on something that they're not ready to learn. You see the lock symbol that's right there. You can't work that problem until, click on it one more time, Lee, until you've worked on another topic that's available. So I don't know why it's not showing what's not available. Click on the other locked one. There, it shows me the topic that has to be worked on in front of that one. But if you're all the way back, go back to the beginning of the carousel. Unlocked, then it's locked, but that one is going to unlock because you do this one, right? That's exactly what it's saying, that it's going to allow you to work it. Now, in a homework set where you could work on any problem at any time and go back and forth, if you don't have the prerequisite knowledge, it's still going to let you work on it. That's not what ALEKS does. ALEKS is going to make you learn in order. So click down here on the start again. What do we do when we start? We get a problem. It explains the progress meter. It explains that there's an explanation button if you need another explanation. And it goes through the problem for you to be able to work on it. So let's click on, somebody got a quick answer for that? 5y minus 4. Now do the, yep, 2y plus 2. Very good. Excellent. Keep going. That was for you. Let's do another one. Hopefully it won't be, let's see.
6 over 3x plus 8.
Over 3x plus 8. What happens when you get the second one right? Why are we doing that?
To reinforce good behavior.
What's the good behavior? Persistence in getting it right. If you click off of this problem and go problem shop and go try another problem and come back and get it right, you don't get but one. We're trying, previously students would do a lot of, topic shopping or pie surfing, we called it in the previous way that ALEKS allowed them to get the topics. And in this one, we designed it where we were reinforcing that, get after it, learn it, keep working on it, get it right 3 times in a row, and then you'll be okay. So one last answer for us. 4. Yeah, that's... And now I've gotten all of my progress meter bars filled, and if I click on next, what's going to happen? Yay. Keep it up. Out of sight. I once went through, with a solve button very fast to see how many different screens I could find, and there's like dozens of different ways of saying congratulations to students. And I didn't, what are we doing right here? We're saying, attaboy, attagirl, you're doing great, but you still got 25 topics to do before the goal of the date for that objective, right? We're reinforcing the march, right? Make sure that students understand that. Click on continue my path and we'll, what happens? I go up, it explains the carousel, which we've already talked about, so just click on it and then close it back up. And if I then do start, it'll start another iteration. Okay, it's a cycle of this learning. Students getting a problem right 3 times in a row to get credit for it. That credit is not the last time they'll see that problem, right? What else do? They do ongoing knowledge checks, kind of like quizzes might have been in a homework and quiz kind of course. This is homework that they're working on here in this learning mode, getting it right 3 times in a row, or a combination of times right to get the progress meter filled up, and then also answering questions on a knowledge check correctly. Also, I think pointing out to students that there's, links behind the problems that have extra explanation. They don't remember what greatest common factor is, they can go get some help, but we don't put the help in the problem for everybody because if you remember it, you don't need to see all those words. So we make it very easy for them to be able to see that stuff. And you opened up the dictionary, so just close that tab. It opens up a dictionary in a separate tab. And we just kicked out. Just go back to, well, I tell you what, I'm going to stop there. Anybody need anything more on the student view right now? They're going to get a knowledge check after they work. Anybody know the cycle for how often knowledge checks happen? Who's not teaching? Who's teaching with it right now? Okay, so the default settings for automatic knowledge checks happen in the system after a certain amount of time. Not too soon, kind of like Goldilocks. Not too soon, right? So what's the minimum amount of hours they should work? You set it 5 hours. Why? That's long enough if they're doing a lot of topic completion work. How many topics do they have to have after they get past 5 hours before it kicks off the automatic? 20 topics. If they get to 10 hours and they haven't gotten to 20 topics, it kicks one off anyway. So you knowing exactly what that cycle is, so you can say, they happen every once in a while. Don't worry about it. It's going to happen. The little symbol up at the top tells them how many topics are left. So if we go back and look in that student view for that student right now, it's going to tell me that there's 19 topics until the next knowledge check, because we just did one. And they can see it, and they can see how much time is left too. So tell them that. They can then predict it, and they can delay it for up to 24 hours, one time, for each knowledge check when it happens. Pops up, I don't want to do it right now, I've got to go do homework, or I got to go test, or I'm not where I want to do a knowledge check, so do it later. So that's all I'm going to talk about with the student view. But
I have one question.
all right,
I've gone into student view several times, and every time it takes me back to that initial knowledge.
don't click on the checkbox that says reset my view.
Don't click on it.
Don't click.
I'm not clicking on it.
Oh, well,
I'm clicking the button that says.
the big green button
Yeah,
in the same course.
yeah.
Because if we go back to the tool right now and click on it, it's going to take us back to the start my view. Go ahead. Yeah, I mean, I should be right there ready to continue my path working on the same topic we would have started before, right there. So
All right, is there some way that maybe it's automatically setting to reset that?
I've never heard that before.
Are you going to a different class, different section?
No, I've done it in different classes at the same day.
If you're in like a section 1 and you click on your student view and then you go to a different class and you're in a different section and click on the student view, that's 2 different student views. Student view is per class.
Yeah, I got that.
So, okay.
It's doing it in the same class.
Well, after we finish, if you want to, we'll look at your class right now, do it, check it out on yours personally, and if I can document what it's doing, then I can ask somebody to look into it. All right, so we brought us right back. This is what students see when they land back at their student page. So, any other student questions at this point? Anybody have students that are complaining or happy with ALEKS when they work on it? Are you getting any feedback from them about the process?
I have a complaint that the students don't see an up-to-date average of their work ahead, so if they're getting new work, so they'll have a current average.
Well, all I can tell you is that ALEKS's gradebook is built to post grades on the due date, and not to take a grade before the due date for the things that are in there. So what you do with those grades, I suspect you could make your grades post in Canvas. Are you using Canvas? Blackboard, sorry. In Blackboard, you can make them post there earlier, I think, if you wanted to.
Yeah, it's not
It won't
syncing.
pull over until the due date.
It won't pull over till the due date?
And that has been an issue, especially with the withdrawal date when it is. I had a student who, he's finished everything, and she's like, well, I don't know what my average is. And she won't know until the final exam is due, and I think that's a disadvantage to using ALEKS.
Okay.
A big one.
Well, there's a lot to do with the grade book that I know we've heard over time, and we're doing a project to rebuild all of that class management piece of the world. So I know they're addressing it in that, but so it's underway. It's just I don't know when it'll be ready for us to use. Maybe 18 months is about what I've heard for that project, because it's a whole new sort of combined platform that's going to have better grade book in it. Yep.
Is there something in the works to be able to, like, just push a button and have it recalculate all of your objectives, where students have gone in and worked on stuff and they've changed their grade, so that it can repopulate with the new homework averages or the new grades after a due date?
So you want it to repopulate to reflect the losses that happen?
The ups, not the downs.
Okay, so
At the end of the semester.
so you want
I
it.
have my course set up, if they finish the objective, it opens up everything so they can go back and work on anything they missed.
Right.
But that doesn't change their grade for that objective.
Right.
I have to manually go in and change that. And that's a pain with 30 students and 4 courses.
The way I was taught to deal with that particular situation is put a little small pie progress at the end of the course for 100% of a goal, and give them say, whatever you make up, you'll get in that little piece right there. And then you don't have to worry about dates. So you follow what I'm saying? So,
But then you go back into the not having an accurate grade at that time, until the end of the semester.
right. Well, I mean, yeah, I guess so. Till the grade book changes, I can't change that part of it. But the
And they'll know their current average next
In
year.
18 months.
Yeah.
When they graduate.
You can change all the dates. I had 2 students finish early, and I had to change all the due dates. It was easier to change all the due dates and find out what their average was, then go back and reset the due dates. But it's.
But to do that in your grade thinking, you've created a
Yeah, when the grade sync, that's going to
Really
shut
bad.
off.
Right.
Yeah, it'll shut your course down.
Right, well, I don't, right.
So I've completely shut off the grade thinking because it's created too much trouble.
Yeah, I knew I was going to be
Standing
changing all my
dates.
due dates and stuff, so I didn't even.
I should've listened.
try. Yeah, I didn't even try.
does the export of the entire grade book not give you the scores for those that haven't posted yet? I can't remember whether that does. Does not? Well, it's a problem we have to work on. In the end, I have people that say people finish early and they just go out and give them credit for the other stuff early in some grading format, but I don't have an answer for you that'll fix that problem right now. All right, anything else on the student side? Student experience, besides the grade book part of it, the workflow, the knowledge checks. Are they complaining about the knowledge checks, or do they recognize that it's helping them?
They complain.
They complain.
There you go.
They'll complain if they didn't have knowledge.
Just having students up in the lab working, I've had numerous comments that they wish they had broken in high school. Because they felt like they would have learned.
They would have remembered.
In high school, and they wouldn't be sitting in a 98 class right now.
Right. It does enforce a level of retention and mastery that will allow them to actually proceed, and that's part of what ALEKS brings to the table that makes it very successful. All right. Let's look at some reports, and I want to go to the free trial for this, so I'm not showing anybody student data. Do you guys know how to see it? You probably have your own student data in most classes now, so you can manipulate your classes to see this. But if you were ever trying to see data in a report that's not yours and you want to see it, the free trial has fake student data in there that allows you to see the reports and manipulate them. And so in the conversation that was one of the primary focuses here was about seeing student data and how it helped you manage the class. Who in here uses one thing in ALEKS that you didn't have in other systems to manage student behavior? One report or one piece of data or anything you use that you didn't have in another system that you can get your fingers on quickly? The pie report. So we're picking a fake class, and so I want to just click on the reports and let it drop down. If you don't remember anything else, remember, start at the top left and go through the first 3 reports, and if you've never looked at them, look at them for your class, because they will help you manage your class. And I kind of look at them in this way. The ALEKS pie report is a 40,000-foot view. You're looking at the class, and you can notice every little hill and valley and everything when you're looking at the content. It's a content report. Helps you understand what your students' behaviors are towards completion of learning and mastery in the content way. The progress is all about coming down lower and looking at students in a view of all students that helps you see their progress through the material and how they're doing with staying on track and getting the current objective done and things like that. And then the time and topic, that's coming right down to the treetops and looking at the students and watching what they're doing and knowing which foxhole they're stuck in today because they were working on problems that they can't finish, and you're just right there ready to help them because you're seeing it. And you next time you have that student in your class, you know exactly which problems they were struggling with. So let's start at the pie report. Which one is that? It's the highest topic content report. if you don't know this, if you start looking at reports, if there's a little blue arrow drop down like that, that means that there's other choices for how you can make that data perform. If you change that right now to the initial knowledge check, you can see what the class looked like as soon as everybody had done their initial knowledge check. So you can see a change in the number of topics from the initial knowledge check to today. Some days when you're having a bad day, if you have a good class, look at it. It'll help you feel better. If you have a bad class, maybe skip that particular view. One report? Oh, you can't see those side by side. Not that way. You can see a report for it, but you can't see 2 screens worth. Screen real estate is just too tight. If you click on the drop down over here, go to the the current progress, and then the drop down on the downloads will allow you to see the data in a report, and you can see reports of students' initial and current progress in some of these views. You can see the objective view, which will show their completion. Click on that XLS, so it just shows you, the kind of information where they are in a total number of topics for each student. It doesn't give you the pie metaphor for both of them. So, yeah, I guess in a couple occasions where I wanted to do that, I've just taken a screenshot of the two to put in a presentation or something that would show that. It's more this, when we talk about the views in ALEKS, we're trying to inform you as the instructor with managing that class and being able to manage it. So what's at the top of it? It tells you what the percentage is overall for everybody. It tells you how many topics are remaining on average for everybody, and it tells you what the top 4 ready to learn topics. Who knows what ready to learn means in ALEKS? When I talked about the student view, I talked about they could not open up a topic that had that lock symbol because they weren't ready to learn it. That's what it is. It is a topic that's open for them in learning mode because they have done the prerequisites in the course that will support that learning. So the top 4 ready to learn topics for this class at this moment in time are right here. If you are trying to adjust your teaching schedule, so who said they used the pie in class besides you, Val? If you're trying to think about, what am I going to teach about today? Well, my syllabus says I'm going to teach about this. Well, if these 4 things are on your syllabus, make these the first 4, or at least be sure they're on the I can't miss this today, because why? The most absorbent part of students' minds are open for the things that they're ready to learn. They're not listening to you lecture on stuff they're not ready to learn. So in a completely free-form class without real strict syllabus, I have instructors who do all of their teaching based on just marching through the ready to learn topics and teaching students. They, and people that do mini lectures for that. So if you click on the first one, what happens when you click on a blue and underlined topic name in the ALEKS Pie report? It opens up an example of the topic, so you can see what it is to think about it. You can click on the explain button if you want to see a further explanation of what they would get in learning mode, although it looks prettier in learning mode than we display here, but it tells you the points, tells you what information. I always show this screen just to talk about that. If you don't know, you can put resources of your own attached to a topic. You can. If you have a favorite handout, you can put your favorite handout in the system and attach it to a topic, and then when the students work on it, it will be an instructor resource button right there on the same side where the calculator and the other buttons were in the learning mode. So we can close that window down. And let's scroll down and look at the open section, open up one of them. So if I'm walking into class thinking I'm going to teach today, and I thought I was going to do something on R1 or R2, I need to find something that students haven't mastered that they're ready to learn. That's the whole point. So these three columns, go back up where we can see the column header. Progress in the remaining, always equal to 100% between the two of them. So if it's at 100%, you don't need to lecture on it, theoretically. You might do a review on it before a test. If there's 0 here, then everybody's good. If there's 0 in the ready to learn and it's not completed, then it's probably not something most students are going to absorb right then and there. So it's an opportunity for you to consider making a change. Now, I'm not saying everybody will change their lecture pattern greatly, but if you just change it just a little bit by thinking about what they really are ready to learn and making sure that gets to be part of your lecture, you'll enhance your ability to reach students while their mind is ready to absorb the topic you're talking about. And then this last column was a column put in here because I had an instructor who was teaching Emporium where they really weren't lecturing at all, except for one-on-one just-in-time teaching or mini group lecturing. And she said, I don't want to be working with my students just because they're ready to learn and taking away an opportunity for them to succeed on their own. I want to be working with them after they've started the topic and maybe are struggling. Attempted not yet master doesn't mean they're struggling. They could have just started it and not finished it for other reasons, but she was trying to engage them at a point where they had already started working on a topic and found that that really enhanced it. Any of these columns where there's any percentage in there, clicking on the percentage will tell you how many students and what those students' names are. So there's 2 students in this class that represent that 7%. And if I wanted to do a small lecture for them or wanted to send them some tip or something else, I can communicate with them. So this is ability in these reports to see data in your course and to think about how you might change lecture or might change the way you communicate with students to help them think about particular problems. If you know it's a very tough problem that they're about to encounter, you might say, make sure you're checking this, support. Look at the video that's in the book for this one or other things that you want to suggest. And so it's a way of being aware of where your students are from a content perspective. All right, let's go to progress. Anybody use this report? Anybody not use it? Okay. You're teaching a dated objective course? You ever want to ask yourself, I wonder how all my students are doing in being prepared for, the objective test that's going to be next week or 2 days from now. Let's talk about the construction. The name, the total time of the course, the last login, knowledge check, last time they started and finished this last one, a bar chart representing their mastery in the darker color, and the lighter color is their learning that hasn't been confirmed in a knowledge check. And then this column right here, what does it say? Current objective. Lee just sorted it by clicking on the header. The blue type in the header tells me it's active. And when she sorted it, everybody that's really ready is on up here at the top, and the people that are less ready will be at the bottom. Or I can click it again, and the people that are less ready are at the top. And if you haven't already done this, if you are so inclined, you can click on the check box next to the name of everybody that you think needs a little push to be ready and say, you've got a test tomorrow. You've got several topics you haven't learned. You probably won't do very well on that test. You might want to do some work tonight. By clicking on the send the message to the students, I've sub-selected based on a sort in the screen, and I've got a quick, fast way to communicate with a group of students that all fit some parameter around that. Readiness for current objective. Last login date, too far behind. Haven't been, doing very much work overall. All kinds of things I can see on that one report. I can then use the messaging tool that's clicks away from being able to do that. So again, the checkboxes on the left, there's several reports in ALEKS that have checkboxes like this and the messaging built into them. This is one of them. And then the next one we talk about will be. If you haven't seen this report before, what do you think we're doing with this information for you? Why would we put this on the screen for you? It's topics learned since the last assessment. It's the time in ALEKS since the last assessment. And it's the topics learned per hour.
Well, when the students just have been working on something all night, you get it, you go in there and they were logged in for 4 minutes. That wasn't all right. That's,
There's actually the next report does that a little bit better. This report to me is about you seeing blips of information that help you think about a way to have an intervention conversation with an individual student about their behavior, right? So if I want to go see, if I'm sitting here, worried about a student doing enough work, what topic am I going to look at? Number of topics learned as a possibility, or the topics per hour. If really low topics per hour mean that student needs to spend a lot more time. So when you say, on average, you need to spend 5 hours a week outside of class working on this, but those of you who are working more patiently might need to spend 7 or 8, and if you don't know who you are from that, they can see that same data on their progress report view that shows their topics per hour. And so managing students and helping them have a way of becoming time managers in the course is part of the secret to success. The data that helps you do that with them is in this report to see topic per hour learned. Click on that and let's just see what the range is. 6 to something 1. That's a pretty wide range, right? That 25 topics that's left in the beginning of the course when we were in student view means 4 hours or 25. That's a lot. That's a lot of difference. The students that, and if it's really high, really low, is it a blip to pay attention to? Yes. Either they're really struggling and it's low and they need to be encouraged, or it's really high and they might not be doing real honest work, and that's not going to help them when it comes time to do whatever assessment that you have that's proctored where they can't use unauthorized assistance. So topics learned, time in ALEKS, topics learned per hour. This is just a since last assessment report, so you got to remember that that's part of what it is. Now, when you talk about it in a specific time frame, like in the last week or in the last 2 weeks, that's the next report. So let's go to the time and topic report.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Yes, sir.
You've got the current objective, which is good for those who have their course set up with, like each test is an objective. You've got these big groups. But the way I've got my course set up, I have each section as its own objective. So I'm hitting objectives like every 2 days to keep them on time. This isn't really as effective on that. You can't go in. Is there any way to have like subjectives where you can group a bunch of objectives together so that you can have this kind of report over more than one objective?
There's not a multi-layered objective capacity in the system right now. So that is something I have heard requested in the past, and it may come to pass someday when we do it. But right now, I don't have any reason to believe it's on the immediate work plan. But the thing I would offer to you is if you could think about your sections not necessarily, needing to be there, and you're telling students you need to be through the topics, because and if the ALEKS workflow is going to be the ALEKS workflow for topics exactly. If it thinks something's prerequisite to something else, it might pull a topic forward every once in a while. So if that that would be happening to you no matter how you chunk it. But if you could think about a little bit bigger topics and then look at that workflow of topics and say, I'm going to be covering the bottom of the workflow, then the middle, and then the next, in that ALEKS syllabus. So grab that syllabus. So when we scroll down, and this in this class, it's sectioned out. But if I had all, those are sections in this syllabus, but they're not sections of topics in a objective. So this would kind of, you could say we're going to cover this material there on the first and second day of the class, 1 and 2, 3, whatever, how many sections you normally cover, and but we don't have a sub category. Time and topic report. Okay, which one is this? We write down right above the tree level, right? We're telling what color their eyes are. What's this first view look like? Scroll back out just a little bit so I can see that row right at the top. It says it's the report from, and it's got a date range. And it defaults to a 2-week date range, but you can do it for 8 days, or you can do it for, up to 20 weeks if you wanted to see everything in one report. And and you can have it include in the data that's in the table below it weekly and monthly subtotals if you want. But basically in this 2-week period, it shows, a level of student activity and the number of aggregate minutes per class per day that are happening for the students, so you can kind of see it. There's peaks right before objective due dates, almost always, in any course. In this one, it looks pretty well spread out. I'm trying to remember what the 21st was. That would have been a Friday, right? So this is the work week. This is the work week. There's the rest of that work week that's back there. So it's pretty much students are working not working on the weekend. Come down in here, and this is per student data that goes across name, total time, last login date, total time for the date range. So if I was running it for something that I wanted to compare students' efforts in work during the same period of time, specific time, not since the last assessment, this column right here would be a column that I could use to generate the same kind of view of maybe you're not doing enough work, or maybe you might. So and it sorts both ways. So go ahead and click it. Click the header. Oh yeah, I want it to go the other way. There you go. So, it was from 4.5 hours to 7 or 8 hours, total time. Each one of the time marks in here, total time by day, has a number in a parentheses underneath. Anybody ever use this report? What does this report do? What's that? What are those parentheses numbers? The number on the right-hand side is the total number of topics attempted, and then the one on the left-hand side is the topics mastered. What is your opportunity here? Mine the data visually for deltas in those two numbers. Why? Because that means there's a lot of attempted, not yet mastered topics in that particular bigger delta. So a student that had tried, 28 and only mastered 20 is not persisting in 2/3 of the time, almost. So where is that? Well, when I go to look at a report, it's going to show me, the day-to-day for a student. So I can click on a student name from right here because I saw something here that told me to go look at it, and I click here, and the date range for which this report was run is already in the date range for that student's time and topic report. And when I see the student bar chart for this time and topic, I have different colors. In the legends on the bottom, the topics learned are in blue. Topics attempted but not learned are in the orange color. So if I click on one of them that has both colors, I will see multiple topics, and at least one of them doesn't have the learn symbol at the end of it. And that can be one of the problems that student obviously had a problem with, right? This is the real detail about what they did with the time they spent in learning in the system. starting at the top, it tells me that the student learned 4, attempted 1, spent 59 minutes in this day with the work, and here's exactly what they did. If it has this blue colored page symbol, that's the first time they got to the topic. If they get something wrong 3 times in a row and they end up with a gray page symbol, it means that ALEKS presenting them with the learning page because they kept trying and not succeeding. And after the 3rd time, ALEKS says, I'm not going to let you keep going without giving you an explain page. And so they pop the explain page up and they click on next to try it again. So again, the system's trying to read what's going on with the student. If you look at the explain page and click on it, it tells you that students spent 1 minute and 54 seconds. Well, is that an appropriate amount of time? I don't know. Let me look at the explain page and see where it is. After I missed it 3 times and I need to read that, that's probably about right. If they spent 5 seconds on it, they're not using the help that's being presented to them. You can help them learn to be better students. So this is mining back down into, go ahead and close that by clicking on it again. If you see a failed topic, you can see exactly what answer they entered and the correct answer. This demonstration fails on this a little bit about putting in what they put in incorrectly would be showing in there, or if they didn't provide an answer, but it would be showing. So you can see what kind of mistake they're making.
For the ones that come in and say that they typed it incorrectly and found mark wrong.
Yep. This is the place, and you can teach them to look at their own learning sequence. We call this a learning sequence log, and they can see their own learning sequence log, and they can see what they attempted. And when they say, I spent 5 hours on this weekend, and you go look and you see that they spent 20 minutes and did 1 attempt and not the problem they're talking about. But if you're looking for those deltas and you're looking for lack of completion, you'll find screenshots of this where students are struggling on a topic that they're not asking for help.
Well, they also come in and they can't remember. I was working on this one last night, and I can't remember which one it was. And so I
tried it like 6 times.
Yeah, I tried like 6 times, like they did it wrong, and then ALEKS told me to take a break.
Right.
So I'll pull this up and I'll say, what time were you working, and that kind of thing, pull it up.
And you can pull it up and go drill right back down into it. Teach them to pull it,
I didn't realize they could get to this.
Yeah, they can. The tile that shows this week's activity is this. It drills down into the weekly view where they can drill right on into their own report. So, yes.
But this only shows objective work, right? Like if they take a quiz or a test, that doesn't show up in the time report regardless. I get that it should be from a topic aspect, but since it's a time and topic, I thought
You know,
they
especially when
should
there's
throw
knowledge check, right?
It does. It went back on the grid screen. The little caret in the corner of the field. Go back to the class level report. So click on class header right there, just in the header, and just change back to the class time and topic report, right? Because I didn't do anything except for say, change me to the class from the student I was in. So when you scroll down into the grid, there's a student that spent time in assessment. That little blue caret in the top right-hand corner means that they spent time in assessment, and it's in the legend somewhere. Maybe scroll down. Oh, not that one. Yeah.
either knowledge check or
This little right here, it tells you that that's what that caret means. That blue and triangle in the upper right-hand corner. So you can know that if you see 0, 0, and they spent 41 minutes and they got the blue, triangle, oh, that's exactly how much they spent on that because they didn't do any learning at all. And so you can see that time and assessment. And if you do have quizzes and tests in there, it will count that time as time worked. If you see lower performance and you got a lot of quizzes and or practice homeworks or practice tests that they might work on, you would, if you see low performance around those times, then you'll know that they're spending time on those things as well, because it doesn't differentiate from that learning, but it will kick them out after how many minutes of inactivity? You know that? After 20 minutes of inactivity, students are kicked out of the system. They only get credit up to the point of the last activity, when they actually did something. So the 20 minutes doesn't count. It's not like they can pad it by 20 minutes by leaving it running. It means that it goes back to where their last activity was, and that's what they mark as the time. If you, so click on that Instructor tab, Lee. I'll go to the Hello Lee up in the top, and go to Settings. See that? Go up, click on Edit. See this?
Up to an hour? Thank you. That was a surprise admission right there.
Can you be logged in two different places too?
No, you can't.
As an instructor.
That's our part of our security at the background. But you can make it an hour, and I'll tell you a secret. If that's still not enough, for $20 I can get you two. No, I'm just kidding. But I can get somebody on the back end to extend it to be even longer. I had one guy who says, I use it all day, every day in class, and I teach 3-hour classes. I want it to be 3 hours so it doesn't log out while I'm in class, because he's using it to teach from. He's showing the problems and getting the students into the workflow. And he said, can you do anything about it? And I went, I don't know. All I can do is ask. And I ask, and so somebody can go in there and plug in a number that's bigger than an hour, but you can do an hour. So somebody, not me, somebody who has access to the database. Okay. Scroll up just a minute. We're talking about that. Actually, do the Control minus a couple of times. Let's bring the screen size down. A couple more. All right, good. I just want to get all the tiles on one screen. You guys use the different tiles on the dashboard? If you're not, you should. You should. One, right here is the ALEKS Pi view, right? Students who haven't logged in recently, danger, The progress report that we talked about a minute ago is right here. The time and topics right here. If you're tracking grades here, if you're not paying attention to Ready to Learn in the Pi report, you can see it right there. That's the top 4 from the Pi report right there. Attempted not yet learned, that's that column from the Pi report that shows what topics are most attempted but not yet learned. Lost in recent assessment. What topics are the students not retaining? On average, in your course, that's the top 4 right there. Click on that View All. Only place to get this view in the ALEKS Pi report. Open up a chapter. What have we done? We've replaced the far right column that was attempted, not yet mastered, with a lost in recent assessment column. So if you want to see who lost what, you can go see it by clicking on it. Can you find one with a number in it? That's an easy one. So again, back at that level, we don't call it lost for the students. Their tile for their individual view says needs more practice. That means they lost it in an assessment. If you know that and you're working with a student and you have them in their system while you're working with them, you can say, show me that tile and let's look at it and talk about where you've struggled to retain things. Okay, so back at the top level reporting, what did I give you? The dashboard, 2 screens, there's an arrow to navigate. You can navigate by the dots on the bottom too, by clicking on them. And students have a similar setup with dashboards for themselves that they see from the reports link. And you can see the student data dashboard, just the same kinds of things. So the ALEKS Pi is still up here. The current objective is here, so you can see where they are in a current objective. You can view the full report if you haven't done this with a student to see click on that view full report in the current objective one, right there, that one. This has a tile for every objective and shows data about the students' completion. So at the top right of a student view in your instructor side, there's a set of tiles that start with every tile. It focuses on the. It usually focuses on it. I don't know why it's not. Change the student right quick. I don't know what's going on. I'll have to apologize. That one doesn't fail me when I click on it. So back to the. Did you guys see how the dashboard was shown on the screen? What icon gets you back to the dashboard? Somebody called it the waffle iron the other day to me. And I said, you know why that waffle iron looks like that? Because originally there were going to be 9 tiles. And there's only 6 now because they decided that all of our eyes needed a bigger tiles, so that we'd make it 6 and put second and third screens when we needed them. So that's your little secret. I tell people, now you know the backstory of the design. They had that little tile in there from the beginning, and they never changed it. And I haven't yet said that to a designer, because I'm pretty sure if I said it to them, they would find it they'll say, yeah, we intentionally left it there, or that's unnecessary. I'm going to have to change it. I like the fact that it represents something from the beginning. This is, an individual student view of the tiles. When I was talking about how does a student see their activity, click on this view all in the middle. You want to see a single student's activity because they walked into your office. If you click on this week's activity in the middle tile, you'll be able to see it. Okay, questions? Did I give you something to think about for looking at the data and using it in some ways that'll help you manage your students, both from a topic point of view, then down at the overall class performance point of view? Go back to the class level, and now click on the progress report icon that's right here in the middle and view all. I want to show you one more. Click on the view all right there, and then go to the drop down and change the drop down to detailed progress. If you haven't looked at this report in this view, when you change it to detailed progress, this is that cycle of learning and assessment that's built into the system. The white space ends where the student ends. Scroll on down a little bit, we'll see some more different students. If you're, students who aren't doing enough work won't have as many assessments in here, the knowledge checks in the system, but this is the knowledge check cycle for every one of them. So the very first event for a student, get on the bottom of one of those, yeah, right here. Very first one is the initial knowledge check. So in this case, this student had 112 topics in the initial knowledge check, and then they learned 20. At the 20th one, they learned at somewhere like 5 hours and 45 minutes into it, right? So that cycle we were talking about earlier about when they happen, at least 5 hours and at least 20 topics. So when that student got to the 20th topic of learning, they got another knowledge check. If you add 112 plus 20, you get 132. When the student number right here showing what they left as mastery is 125, how many topics did they not retain? 132 minus 125, they had 7 that went back into their workflow. So if you're ever looking for those situations, you can see it in those lost topics. 125 and 20 would have been 145, only 139. This student is losing topics. So if you see students who you think are struggling, and you can look in this view, you can find the assessments that happen that cause them to lose topics and try to maybe understand a little bit more about what's causing that. Okay. Valerie, is there anything else you wanted me to cover, or you guys coming up with another question back there looking for something? All right. Progress report for the class. So it's the drop down on the left. Go back to that screen, Lee. The top left drop down changes the view of the report from current. Detailed progress history is not showing? Ah. That could be happening.
I also like to look at the, you didn't talk about the, knowledge per slide. And I'll have students that, and let them see, like, they'll look at the course progress, that, because I like those colors. And, I'll tell them that blue,
Reports again. Yeah.
knowledge per slide. And then I'll have students look at their own, and I'll tell them, that blue is what they have gotten in their long-term memory, the green is in their short-term, and then the yellow is what they still got to get. And when they see it like that moving across, they get really kind of clicking with them.
So if you haven't, so that's a good one.
Yeah, that gives me a nice snapshot of the whole semester, how they, if somebody drops off, midway, what's going on with them as far as attendance, and, are they still coming to class? And they were doing real well at the beginning, and then all of a sudden,
Okay.
Question on knowledge check. It's every 5 hours and 20 topics. Is that in a objective or is that across objective?
It's a cross objective, but if you have objectives where you have 2 objectives a week every week, and which it sounds like you might, you probably need to schedule some objectives if you want to keep that many objectives, because there's a built-in level of support for not bombarding students with an assessment right before a due date. So there's a 48-hour and 10 topics blackout window in front of objectives.
Some objectives don't even have to.
Right, and that's what's happening. So
So
that's why you,
too much about their knowledge.
exactly,
that's why.
right,
No.
yeah. So if you want to help them, even though you haven't done one, at this point, if you want to help them a little bit more, schedule one and have them do it now, while they still have some days before you. Are you doing a comprehensive final? Well, you got 2 choices. You can just do a progress one and see what happens for just recent learning. So if you,
We're only a week and a half away from finals. So.
yeah. Yeah, if you took something away from them right now, so so next time you run it where if you're going to keep those small objectives, go to Lee's in the assignment builder, and she's going to go to the new assignment, and she's going to build a scheduled knowledge check. And then when you build a scheduled knowledge check, you have 2 choices about the type. One of them's progress. That's exactly what would be what I just explained. Frequent after 20 topics. It's the way to describe that is the most recent learning, mostly, but it also will ask some questions from further back in the course that ALEKS thinks the students needs to try again. Maybe something they struggled with, maybe something they lost in assessment and gained back. Those kind of questions. So don't ever say it's just the recent learning. Say it's mostly recent learning with progress report. It can also be a couple of questions in front of them. If ALEKS thinks that you might be able to answer one of those ready-to-learn topics that you haven't attempted, it'll give you a chance to earn that in one question instead of doing the 3-time learning mode for it. And that happens a lot at the beginning of courses where students maybe weren't so sure about how to do stuff, and after they've done a little bit of work, they kind of got loosened up. Now I can throw the ball farther than I did before. So it's an advantage in that way. So that's the progress type. And there's a little explanation button on the end that describes these things. And then the comprehensive, would be the entire course. And they can go forward greatly, and they can go backwards greatly if you do that. So I would have said, don't schedule a comprehensive for those kids unless they're A students and they really want to challenge themselves right now, you know, if you wanted to do that. But people use comprehensive in readiness sort of situations, like I'll do a comprehensive knowledge check right before midterm because I want to check everything they've already learned, and if I schedule it and they've lost it, it's better for them to figure that out right now and then have a couple of days to, you know, rework it before they take my midterm and or do the same thing at the end of the term. That's a common practice. So this scheduled knowledge check gives you the ability to pick a time, place, and type of.
Now, if you set up this and you've got like a schedule it for today, if they don't log in today, will it automatically do it the next time they log in after that day?
And it doesn't get blacked out for those prior to objective dates. It's the way to be sure you're not having students. A lot of students, even without real frequent small objectives, anybody in here have any perpetually procrastinating students? Meaning they all do the work right before the due date, right? So they can't, but they think they can, and that's when they try to do it, and that's when their conscience is bothering them enough to actually do it, you know, and so they do that, and so it blacks them out. And so one of the things that is, when we were in the progress report and I changed that view to show all of those, if you do that every once in a while, you'll see, you know, here's Johnny with 1 and Alice with 6, you know, and it's very visual. But that column that says the knowledge check start date is the last knowledge check on the column, and the reason will say initial knowledge check if that's the only one they've ever done. So you don't even have to open it up to be able to eyeball the people that haven't had one since the initial knowledge check. But you can see it in a couple of different ways. So when Val calls it, Jimmy, I want to talk to you about this course. I'm pulling up courses in Val's account, and I'm looking at that progress report. That's my first view to go look at it and see, what do I see that she could have a problem with, and I need to help her, and I can kind of look for problems like this. This is a very common, you know, so why are my students not getting knowledge checks? The other thing that can happen is when you build an assignment, there's the ability to prevent the automatic knowledge checks for up to 7 days. It defaults to 2 days. If you don't pay attention, it defaults to 2 days. Oh, I have a practice final in there for them. It's assigned to everybody so they can do it as many times as they want, whenever they want, and it's open the whole semester, and nobody gets a knowledge check until they take it. Then they can get a knowledge check. So that's easily resolved in one of the either, you know, recognizing it or just scheduling some so that they happen. Any other questions? How about it? Got anything? You good? All right. Well, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it. Appreciate the feedback on